going to explain briefly what I'm about to do. It's going to be to learn Chopin's Polonaise Fantasy as quickly as possible. I've never learned any of this except for basically, here's background. I've listened to it a lot, probably 30 or 40 times listening through. I've also done harmonic analysis of the first 2 pages for a music theory assignment, but that's it. As you can see, like I've got some chords written in here, and then it's like blank after that. The only other thing I've really done, quote unquote, learn it or start the learning process is actually, as I was listening, I would write in a few key terms for expression from readings that I really like. It's like, oh, like Richter broadens out here in measure 79 or something like that worked really well. Or this, Evanescence, for example, had like a really nice color in this measure or whatever. So I wrote a few things like that I might try and go for, but like that's it. And I've sight read the piece from beginning to end exactly 1 time. That's it. So essentially, not zero experience with this piece, but very, very limited. And it's required in the Chopin competition next year. So since I'm going to try for that, I want to learn it as early as I can. I've heard this is one of Chopin's most daunting works, if not the most daunting. So my goal is basically get my head over the hardest passages of it today, in the next 2 hours, and just see what happens. Now I might end up practicing for 45 minutes, I might end up practicing for 3, kind of just depends on where I'm feeling with my focus and all of that. But the goal is to take all the hardest passages, and I start with what I call the 3-step framework that you need to have a solid foundation, which is notes, fingering, and rhythm. If you have those 3 things, everything else becomes easier. The pedaling, the rubato, the expression, the dynamics, all that becomes easier when you have that foundation. So if I can get at least that on the 5 hardest passages of this piece, I would consider a major head start in learning this officially. The goal is to learn this from the ground up, completely performance ready, all of that in 3 weeks, which means essentially the new year, January 1st, to be able to perform it at the highest standard. So that's the goal. It starts today. So here we go. On my very first sight read of this piece, I found one of the hardest passages just to be in measure 50, if you know this piece at all, the double notes. All this stuff. Also, it does not help the 30 degrees out here. I'm going to put my gloves on, which now I can't remember what. Oh, they're over there. And that's because not only do I like being warmer, but I really like the technical benefit of practicing with gloves because they're slippery. And so they actually cause you to articulate cleaner. Because like when you play a key, it doesn't feel settled. And you have to try a little bit harder to get a nice position. And it also just kind of makes it all the easier once you take them off, because you just kind of start setting in the key a little better. I did this for like 45 minutes on 10 number 8 the other day, and just, well, I'm really cold, but yeah, I can't do this right now, but it actually lightened up my touch because it's like you have no contact point. So anyway, here we go. Polonaise Fantasy, day 1, 3 weeks till I perform this. Starts now. Measure 50. Like I said, notes, fingering, rhythm. So the 2 you do together. You figure out the notes and the fingering together. You can't figure out the notes without a fingering, but you also can't figure out fingering until you're familiar with the notes. So a great thing I like to do is just, for double notes, I just take 2 fingers and I just kind of hack through the passage until I understand it. I don't even try to think of how it flows yet. There we go. Oh, already noticing here. There's a C flat that I can play. I wonder if that's a misprint. Honestly, let's see. No, maybe that is. No, that's right. Okay. Okay. You've got to watch with accidentals that go through the whole measure. Still D natural. And I like to cheat. Honestly, anything that speeds up the learning is good. So I don't know if you can see this, but I write this kind of stuff in the music, even though the C flat carries over and the D natural carries over. It's just like, why not speed up the process? You know, why not save yourself a little time? So you have to refigure that out every time, especially if your sight reading is not particularly great. So let me go back up. Okay, very patternistic here. That C flat I know I'll forget. And we slide up. That E natural I know I will forget. And also I like to write words that remind myself of a pattern I observe. So for example, I noticed here that once we get to C sharp and E, it's all chromatic. All the way up. So I'm going to write that in. I don't want to have to rethink this or rediscover it later. This is how I save myself time. I discover it once, write it down, and remember it forever. Okay, and then so again, I just saw a pattern from the D and F. I have 6 notes that are chromatic. So I'm going to just write chrome times 6. I need to sharpen this pencil. 1 second. But anyway, that's the kind of thing I like to do in my practice a lot. There we go. Is just make sure that I'm actually notating my observations. And sometimes I like to write these little parentheses just as a visual reminder. Oh wait, that's actually 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I was wrong. Chrome times 7. So for example, see this little parentheses right here shows that that's a chromatic passage. Because not all of them are chromatic. Some of them have a whole step and a half, and some of them are both whole steps or something. So it's just, I think it's really important to visually remind yourself there as you learn. Okay, we've got another C flat. I'm assuming that, there's some weird spellings in here. Admittedly, I don't think of most music in A flat minor very much, so all these C flats are throwing me off. Okay, and then how long does this go on? Ugh, another measure. At least it's not double thirds. That etude, it's horrible. Okay, and then we get, yeah, I'm like, for some reason I see the flats, I'm assuming it's like G flat major or something. It's not, of course. Okay, so I'm just going to write a few reminders here. Flat. Yeah, yeah, that's right. And also, by doing the same combo of fingers, another benefit to that is it just causes you to think of the shape better. When you, even though some of the fingerings are kind of obvious up front, I still don't learn it that way. Because you kind of don't think about the black and white key differences as much. But when you use the same fingers, you actually have to change and manipulate the shape. So I memorize it way faster that way when I do that. Pretty there. Yeah, okay, so there's the passage. Now we begin the arduous journey of finding a good fingering for this. I'm going to start with the one in the book. And that might sound intuitive, but I've actually met a lot of people that before they even try what's in the book, they'll just start coming up with their own fingering right away and work on it for a week, and then realize, oh, this isn't working, and then ultimately settle right back on what's in the book. This has happened more times than I can possibly read in my teaching. And even in my own journey. So now my rule is, even if I think it's not going to work, I start with the book finger. Oh, Pro tip here, when you have a continuous passage, I like to actually write the notes that are coming on the next page. Because like, even if I memorize this, there's something about a page turn that will visually tell you that the two things are not related. And there's always like a little memory slip there or something. So I just see that the first note on the next page is an A flat and a C flat. I'm literally just gonna write, not even the visual notes, just the letter names. And it just says A flat, C flat. So that every time do the end of this, I'm associating where I'm gonna go. And vice versa. Because there's other times I'm gonna be looking at this page and forgetting where I came from. So I'm gonna write D and F and the finger numbers associated with them. So here, 1, 3 going to 4, 5. Then I'm going to write 4, 5 at the end here. And on this one, where the fingering is most likely written, I'm going to write 1, 3. You'd be shocked at how many times it saved me when I'm like accompanying or something. I have these little cues at the end of a page, and then I don't miss the page turn. So anyway, now I don't have to think about it as much. Now we move up. Ooh. Yeah, I'm not sure what I think of most of these fingerings. There's a few that can work. First of all, I don't like this. The 4 on the white key, and then flipping right away to the black key. Because it forces my wrist to twist quickly, and only to twist right back. I'm not a fan of that. And if I don't do that, I get really weird conditions of the hand. So personally, I'm going to do 2, 5, 3, 1, and that allows me to continue with a more neutralized wrist position, flip. Because I'm not reusing the 4th finger in a different location. That's easier than that sort of thing. So there's one of them decided. And by the way, you can learn a lot from this if you're following along by downloading the score. This is certainly not a famous piece for most people to know. You've probably heard the point Polonaise Fantasy if you just joined. But you can download for free on IMLP and follow along. I'll try to include a lot of measure numbers and stuff. So I try to make my teaching really clear so that you can follow along even without the music, but you're going to get more if you are seeing what I'm seeing. So anyway, 5-2, going down, keeping the wrist level. Now they have this 1-3 to 5-4. I don't like the 4 and the 5 being this spread apart. It's not ideal to me. But it's either that or it's move the hand entirely. Which I almost prefer. Because yeah, the 4-5 is too sticky. Sometimes it seems more advantageous to keep it simpler. And like here, the 4-5, I don't have to move as much. But it's crammed, so I'm less likely to play clean and get the good balance and tone production I want. So I'm throwing that one right out the window. Changing that to 5-2, 3-1, move. Because I know when I'm used to that in the long run, it'll be faster and cleaner. Much better choice. My system, by the way, when I change fingerings in the book, you might like to borrow this, it'll be certainly less crowded, is right here. Instead of writing over numbers, I just scribble it out as cleanly as I can and then write on top of it. Whereas like, I've seen a lot of people do this, like just change this to a 3. It's like really hard to read. So for what it's worth, just a little trick, especially if you have a teacher like mine from years ago who scribbles thousands of notes on your scores. You really need to make every marking as small as possible and as legible as possible. So whatever. I like that. Now we're coming back up. I typically don't like 5-3 crossing over 3-1. I've seen that kind of thing before, but I'm wondering if there's a way out of that. Yeah, that's a tough one. unless I just lift the hand entirely, literally impossible. I can do the octave etude, and it's like you can't connect every octave. Like the white key ones, some of them are like 5/4, 5/3. Theoretically, it's possible, but at speed and getting lightness, it's actually better to just do 5/5 with a little pedal. Because you get more lightness and you get more phrase. And ironically, it sounds more legato when you let it go. I also learned this in the second scherzo. There was a chord that stretches for a thumb connection, and I couldn't ever balance it well because my hands like spread out like a big bear paw. So I just changed the fingering, let go, and then pedal it. And I get a much more controlled sound. And that's been forever now. So on and so forth. So, yeah, I've learned a long time to not over legato things. When it's more convenient, just let go. I think that is what I will do. Something. Yeah, that feels sticky. But I do worry that something out of the hand is going to make me accent it. Let's look at the left hand here. Ooh, that's a gnarly transition. Actually, look at that. That's another consideration. The hands like overlap, and you already have to let go of the C flat right here because it's about to go to the left hand. So actually, that's a good reason to let go to allow that clarity to come through. So in this case, I will go 2/4 twice in a row, which I typically don't like, but in this case, it does work nicely. I also don't like going 3/4 when possible to avoid. I have played 10 number 2. Wow. So not ever that fast. At one point you can do it at like 116 or 120, but I still hate that feeling at a high speed. So I'm not going to risk it in this case. I think it's better to just. I like the 1/5 double notes fingering a lot. It's very crowded, but you get a much cleaner exchange, in my opinion. So. Oh, that's nice. I also like sliding too from black to white key, but then changing the other fingers, so like 2/3, 2/4. To me, that feels really nice. That's what I'm going to do here. 2/3, 2/4. Slide. Thumb under, and then just keep the elbow flexible so that it's following and supporting the hand. The more you get into just fingers, the more it corrupts, you know. You get so much smoother when you just are relaxed everywhere. So I like that. I like this option so far. I don't know where they came up with this fingering. They said 1/2. That's really actually pretty hard to do. It's a weird shift to make. I would not do that personally. Then we're all over the place. Okay. Now again, it's the same situation. There's 4/3 in a row. I would, instead of doing that like one go, I would do 2 sets of 2. And just shift. It's going to get a more linear result. I think the most important thing in Chopin is elegance, lightness, and line. And lightness comes from the more control you have over the wrist, the lighter you can play. If you're playing really a lot of up and down, you're squeezing the wrist and you don't have lightness. The more left and right you can move, the more lightness you have. And the elegance comes from the control over the volume, you know. Which you can, again, do more if you're not playing in B hands. So that's what I believe, at least. Yeah, I really like that. And there's just kind of a traditional double thirds chromatic scale fingering with the slides, 2/4, 2/5, flip over. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, the double slide. I also slide down from black key. That always helps. 2/4, 1/3, 2/5. Is that right? Slide down to 2/4. Yes. 3. Okay, almost done with this fingering. Oof. Now it gets very fun, and he gives you a lot of challenges. Again, I'm going to avoid that 5/4 at all costs. It's just too spread apart, too unreliable. Let's see. But there are 2 black keys in a row, which poses a huge problem. That's not nice. How can I avoid that? 1, 2, 1, maybe. Ooh, I like that. Oh, but then coming off of it is hard. So the thing I've learned over time with ring is there's basically no such thing as a perfect option. Every good option has a downside to it, and you just have to pick the one that you can live with the most. Because I like this 1/4, 2/5, 1/3. I do not like what I have to do after that to continue it. But it's probably still better than using 5/4 and coming down. So basically you're always deciding on something that will compromise you the least in piano playing. And there's very, very rarely only one perfect or very straightforward option. So we'll go with this one for now. The other thing I learned from, not directly, she's dead, but Wanda Landowska, was that she apparently, when she learned the Bach's Goldberg variations, she refingered it like 6 times and kept scribbling out, erasing, writing a new finger, and practicing that for a couple days or weeks, trying it again, and just kept iterating it. And before she recorded it and felt good about it, it was like 4 to 6 different fingerings for most of the movements. So, how's that for a story? A full-time, world-class professional still can't make up their mind on fingering. So you got to start somewhere, you got to get used to it. Like in theory, I can say what I just did is going to work, and then after a few days, I might go, oh, that's terrible. So, but you can't know until you try to speed it up and you get a little bit more experience in it. So there we go. 1, 2, 5, 1, 3, now 5. Yeah, that gets too complicated. Oh, I see. Okay, so I'll just go under there, 2, 4, 1, flip over. I actually do think I get used to that. That is quite nice, I have to say. 2, 5, 1, 3. All right, and then we've got a page for it. But remember, I wrote my cue right here, so I know what's coming on the next page already. Interesting. Okay. And then it gets quite fun. Probably traditional option there. There's no other good alternative. Yeah, that's rough. Oh, I just can't stand that 5/4 split. I don't mind if it's like evenly spaced, but splitting between those fingers is so uncomfortable. There's gotta be another way. Oh, that's horrible. Actually, you know why I'm starting with this passage? is because I think in the comment section of Richter's performance, somebody was like, oh, those thirds are impossible. And I was like, really? They can't be that bad. It's actually awful. Oh, man. Okay, I know what I'm going to do. Here's another double trim note I learned from Mark Westcott, who got it from some crazy technician, I can't remember who, could play anything. You don't have to act both notes, but you also don't have to lift the whole hand if just one of those can be connected. So like right here, I can't connect both notes, but I'm not going to lift the thumb just because I have to move the hand. See how I can let go of just this part, and I'm still holding the thumb. So I can make that pivot really seamless, and the more you stay in the key, generally speaking, the more relaxed you are. Whereas if you like let go and build in those hops, you actually break up the line more. So I would do that. Slur the bottom there. 5-2, 1-3, slide down. And then same here. I can't connect all of this, but I can let go and switch thumb. And that is better than that little punctuation. It also lets you actually flutter the pedal more if you're going to pedal, because if you don't pedal, you hear the gap. But if you're holding one voice, you don't hear the gap. So you actually are able to not be forced into pedaling longer than you like. So there's a lot of reasons to do things legato in the fingertips and not just in the pedal. 1-3, going to 2-4, and every couple minutes I'm gonna check in if there's comments. Let's see. Hi. You're probably not here. Oh no, you're not. But hello anyways. Andy and Light. So every couple minutes I'll check in and see if there's comments and, say hi and everything. For those just joining, I'm practicing Polonaise Fantasy, one, working through fingerings and technical mechanics and all sorts of crazy stuff on the hardest parts. This is by Chopin, Opus 61. Okay, so I think I have a good finger this whole double up passage. Now it's just going to be to try this very slowly. Oh, 1 second. Oh,
there's somebody out here, but they're not in the Tesla. It's 12:04.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No, you're all good. Well, I guess I have to end the stream. I forgot I'm teaching in a minute. Actually, a couple minutes ago. I'll be back, though, later today. I've got a lot of free time. So if you want to join me in, like, an hour, I'm going to continue the stream. I've got a lot of Chopin learning to do. Probably going to crank out, not today, but, like, 10 to 20 hours of work on the Polonaise Fantasy this month. So I'll be streaming a lot. And for any of you watching later, I'll try to schedule it in advance. But if I don't, and you see I'm streaming, join me, and we can hang out. So anyway, thanks for joining today, and I'll see you later.